ball chain. This morning first thing that I wake up, King David turns some to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When the cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people commit it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give you some. No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer, conquer them. Shut up, no man, let's conquer. No I will conquer. Shut up, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Shut up. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. Everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my heart. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to fail. I remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the word of grace. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try to trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could there be that we is myself? Weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer, conquer them. Shut up, no man, let's conquer. No I will conquer. Shut up, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Shut up, man. I am a champion. I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Grenada. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video. Remember to like the live, share the live, involve everyone in the conversation. All right, let's get it started. I've been out for a few days. I've been, spending some time with my kids. Something that I hadn't done in a very, very long time. Just focus solely on them, and of course getting some much needed schoolwork in, because as much as everything else has given us a break, we decided that they are not going to participate in that, so we have to do our work just as much. I know it's been a while. It's talking to you. A lot has happened. All right, so we definitely going to take some time or spend some time just chatting this morning. Let me know what's going on with you on your little neck of the woods. So we're going to open the lines very early this morning. Remember the number to call, 440-7377, if you are calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to call as well, the number to call is 347-329-3101. Of course, today I won't be alone. Calling in, we are going to have a guest. And he is a doctor, actually, from Long Island, New York. He specializes in educational and counseling and, of course, psychotherapy. And he's going to talk to us a bit today because we know it's a very difficult time. It's hard to deal for a lot of people with the confinement, as some people would call it. Being at home for such a long period of time, the restriction of movement and so on has been difficult for a lot of people. So we want to give as much encouragement as we can during this time, and it's important for everybody to remember that this confinement is not going to last forever. It's not being done to spite anybody, but it's absolutely necessary. It is a must. It is something that we have to do, right? Our survival as a people depends on it, and we have to take that into consideration. So it's very, very important for us to try to adhere to the rules, the policies, and the procedures that have been put in place for our safety and our benefit. And we know that it's hard. These are not normal times. These are not ordinary times. I know a lot of us want to make a little lime, We want to see our friends. We want to see our family members. But we have to understand that this is not normal time, And of course, Easter is upon us. Remember, tomorrow is Good Friday, so it is a holiday. And of course, we have Easter Sunday and we have Easter Monday as well, being holidays. So you also want to take those things into consideration. Of course, we know that shopping days coming up would be on Saturday and on Sunday. So you want to keep that at the back of your mind. And remember that when you're going shopping, some very, very important tips. Because remember, this is not normal. We're not accustomed to this, right? It didn't come with a manual saying that this is what you must do if this happens. So a lot of the things that are happening at this point is trial and error. And in order for us to come up with a system, in order for us to come up with a procedure that works, that benefits everybody, that's fluid, we have to keep trying. So people need to be a little bit more patient. I've been looking and following on social media, and I mean, some of the comments and things that I've been seeing, I mean, I'm so disappointed because it shows that we are not able to move or to be fluid, some of us, that is, as a people, to adapt to changes quickly. And that is something that we must strive to do. This is not something that's going to last forever. But at the same time, we must try to move to suit. All right? So I know there are a lot of people out there who aren't accustomed to shopping in bulk or being able to make a list that is long enough to last you a week, or 2 weeks. But it is something that we have to try, something that we have to get accustomed to. Because these are not normal times. And in order for everyone to have some semblance of comfort, we need to adapt. I feel like we complain a lot. There's been a lot of complaining happening. I've been following a lot of the live videos, and under it, a lot of people don't listen. They complain, and then after they ask the questions that has normally been answered in a lot of the live videos. But we have to spend more time listening and a lot less time complaining. This is affecting every single one of us. Some people are being affected more than others. And a lot of the people who are being affected aren't even as vocal as some of the people that are complaining, So let's try to make this work. I know that there is a new strategy in place for the shopping. Let's see how we can make this work. We have to try. We have to try something. You can't just say, oh, this is nonsense, it's not going to work if you haven't tried it. How do we know if we're not willing to try? So let's do our best to make these things work. Let's make these things work. I hear people complaining about alcohol. That's the least of our problems right now. We could do without alcohol for a week or two. It's not a necessity. It's not essential for some of us, so we can try to do without it. At this time, what we really do need to focus on is ensuring that we check in on our brothers, our sisters, family members, friends. Talk to them. Help them to get through these difficult times. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. This is so hard. This is so depressing. There are so many things that we can do now that we have the opportunity to just sit down and do it. And I know a lot of people are not comfortable in their cells enough to stay home by themselves or to be away from their friends and their family members. But we have to try. Now is the opportunity for you guys to read books, catch up on current affairs, learn a new language. There are so many online courses that are free. Now is the opportunity for you to sit down and really, adapt. There are so many different skills, crafts that you can learn. Now is the opportunity for you to do that. Let's not look at the situation as entirely negative, and I've been preaching day and night about us spending a lot of time focusing on negativity and talking about the negatives in a situation, that we don't spend enough time focusing on what positive outcomes we can derive from these situations. Some of you may be able to look at a YouTube video and realize that you have a skill, that you have the art of painting, that you have some hidden talent that you've never had an opportunity to hone in on. Now is that time. Let's not focus too much on the negatives. At the end of the day, when all of this is over, we must be able to turn back and say that as a result of COVID-19, I was able to learn to sew, or I was able to learn to do a craft, or I was able to learn a new language, or I was able to gain certification in some field or the other, some course or the other. These are the positivities that we must try to focus on. And I hear a lot of people, one of the biggest issues now is people talking about banks and banks not being open. But you have to remember, and we all have to remember, we all have to take into consideration that as much as we want to be able to do these things, the people that are meant to serve us, they're people too. They have their livelihoods and their safety to take into consideration as well. So a lot of these banks, private entities, made decisions on behalf of their staff to keep their staff safe. And I mean, while the situation might not be ideal for a lot of us, we have to respect the fact that these are people too. They want to be home with their families too. They want to know that their families are safe and taken care of, just as much as you are having an opportunity to be home as well. And do I advocate for banks to be open? I do. I do believe that there should be a day when persons who need to go to the bank, who don't have access to the automatic teller machines and so on, they have an opportunity to withdraw some money so they're able to buy their necessities. I do believe that is essential. But at the same time, we can't fault the managers and owners of these banks for putting the safety of their staff first, or for taking that into consideration. We can't fault them for that, So it's very important for us to look at the whole picture and not just pieces. And remember that this situation does not come with a manual. Government doesn't have a book in the archives that says, if this were to happen, this is how you deal with it. The situation must be fluid enough for changes. But people must also understand that difficult decisions must be made to save lives. And in this case, that is what is most important. Saving lives. So we're at 12 cases. We want to make sure that we don't pass that. You know? We want to make sure that there is no community spread or community transmission. And it has been shown, it has been proven that the only way to do that is to limit the movement of people. It has been tested and it's been proven successful. So let us try our best to adapt to what is happening. And just as government is making changes and being fluid and trying to meet the needs of every individual, we ourselves must also try our best to make the job of the government a little bit easier. You know, a little bit easier. We can't want everything. Remember, this is an issue or a situation that requires limited movement. So if government decides that we're going to give them the shopping days every time they want it, and we're going to give them the gas days every time they want it, and we're going to open up the bank so that they can use it every time that they want to, then what's the point? We have lost focus on the method that is going to help us to beat this situation. All right. So like I say, we have a guest, a Dr. Bridgman, and he is on the line with us this morning. And he's going to be helping us with information, giving us tips on how we can cope with this situation. Good morning, Dr. Bridgman. Oh, no, it seems like we've lost him. Dr. Bridgman, if you're listening, go ahead and give us a call back so we can begin the conversation. Because now is a time for us to stop the complaining and for us to find ways in which we can cope and which we can adapt to the situation. Good morning, Dr. Bridgman. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, and how are you?
I am good, and how are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning to your listeners. Are we on there?
Yes, we are live on air.
Very good. Good morning, Grenada. Good morning. How are we people doing?
Yes, and Dr. Bridgman, I didn't get an opportunity to tell them, but if you guys have questions that you have for the doctor on ways and strategies in which you have or which you think you need help with, you know, things that you need advice on, you can post them on our live video and I'll be happy to pass them along to it. Remember, it's a live call, so we can't take calls at this time, but we can most definitely take your questions. All right. So Dr. Bridgman, it is a chaotic time all over the world. You're based in New York, so you are in the epicenter of all of this madness. How are things right now in New York City?
Well, I mean, things are kind of bleak. There's days we have seen progress, and other days we've seen more positive cases, more deaths and stuff. And out here in Long Island, we this past week, I think they have set up a whole lot of tents out in Stony Brook to really deal with a lot of those positive cases and stuff. And so we've seen lots of increases in lots, really with regards to positive cases. But overall, I think throughout this time, people have come together. I can talk about in my community, in my school district, how as a people that we have come together and look out for each other. I was listening to you in your opening statement, and great job with regards to talking about some of the things that we can do, because we were not prepared for this, and we have to understand that. And I really am into the social, emotional, mental health, psychological impact of this thing. This is, I am not a medical doctor. I'm more into the psychology of things, and I'm seeing the impact can even be greater with regards to this. With people being home, being asked to do things that they have never been asked to do before. They're not used to it, and so this is tremendous. I hope we pull through and we come out as better people.
All right. Now, what are some of because we know that this is going to definitely have a psychological effect on people who live alone, people who are accustomed to congregating. We know that there are a lot of people who are really not comfortable. I don't want to say in their own skin, but comfortable just being by themselves. So this requiring them to do this at this point is definitely going to be difficult. However, it's necessary. So how are some of the ways that they can cope with this situation?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that piece, because again, we were not prepared for this, and we got to understand our culture too. Here in the U.S., and we have a lot of, people can do a lot of reach out to each other, and in some places it's not as stringent as it is in Grenada with regard to the stay at home. I still can go to my office by myself and do some work. I still can go if I need something in some groceries, but there's a structure in place. Right. Let's understand our people. We call upon, and rightfully so. I support every aspect, because social distancing is very important, as well as frequent testing, so that we can know what's going on in our communities and how we can confront the situation. But here's what we asking people to do, and I'm into the humanity of it.
Right.
We're asking people to stay home, and we give them at times a couple of days to go grocery shopping. One person per vehicle. They're not used to this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it is wrong. It is the right thing to do. But I'm asking people to understand the impact those things have. Yeah. People don't at times staying home for a long period of time. I don't like it myself. If this was something that I could have gotten away from and travel, I would have been somewhere right now. But you got to use it wisely. So coping mechanism, and I'm big on Maslow hierarchy of needs. You can't ask someone to become self-actualized if their basic needs are not being met. Back to the point of preparation. This was placed on people, and we have to look at the cash flow also of people. I heard you talk about the banking, access to bank and stuff. It's important that people have that. So when the long lines and stuff, there are a lot of different aspects for the cause of this, because people didn't have money at that time to go out and buy groceries and all that.
Yeah. So
people who are at home, one of the things I think is a good thing to talk to each other. Yeah. There will be some frustration, understandable so, because we actually, especially our men, who at times like to hang out and connect with the others. Yeah. We have the piece in Grenada called the rum shop mindset. and the rum shop mindset is not always about drinking rum.
Yeah.
The rum shop is sociological and psychological. It's a connected piece where people go and hang out with a friend. It's like a bar here where you have a good bartender and people tell their stories, their depression, their sadness, their relationship issues. They don't have that anymore. Yeah. Who do they talk to? And we have to create structures in place so that people can talk to. One of the things that can help them cope with this is that, stay away from the TV with regards to the news about COVID. It can make you very depressed and sad. Limit on your media consumption, including social media. As you said correctly, some of the comments on social media is understandable, but people don't know, and they're just asking questions. They're frustrated. One of the things that has been working for me a lot is staying active. Yeah. I do a lot of workout in my house, because I not eating a whole lot, and I see a lot of comments on social media where people are talking about the refrigerator and back. We have to have the discipline to handle this at this time. So those are the things I think we can do. And I'm also want to reach out to the parents. we have asked parents, and I'm dealing with this right now. This is why I go to my office and call parents because they're frustrated. We have asked parents to be teachers at home in this distance learning. Okay? So the frustration is very high with parents who may not know how to help their kids.
Yeah.
And having kids at home for extended period of time. So bear in mind, and my teachers out there understand that when work is not done. For me, my piece is not really focusing on work being done. I want people to be happy and understand what's going on at home and take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. Taking care of yourself is really important.
Yeah. Well, it's very important for us to find ways and means to deal with this sort of confinement because it's not something that we are accustomed to. You know, I have recently introduced to my children. We get up in the morning and we exercise, which is something that they're not accustomed to, but it needs to become a routine because, I mean, just sitting at home on their devices and doing schoolwork, that can't become the new normal for them, you know?
Yes.
So we as parents have to find a way to switch it up. And then it also, it will definitely also help us with our frustrations of having to deal with them because parents don't have the level of patience with their children that teachers do, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So
and this, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, so this is why structure is important and schedule. I'll ask parents to set a schedule at home for the students. The older the child is, put it later on in the day, we know that young people sleep late. So I've asked my teachers that when you're setting due dates for students to do work, my teenagers are going to do it late in the evening, of nighttime. Understand that. So you have to be flexible in our work, not saying that 10 o'clock is due. Come on now. We're dealing with young people.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to do, so they will sleep late and try to do some stuff at home. So flexibility at this time is so important in terms of understanding and working with our parents and our children.
Yeah, but Dr. Bridgman, something very important that you said before, and I want us to get back to it, is the social media and the news. And I mean, you want to keep abreast with what's happening as it relates to COVID-19 around the world, but you don't want to have an overconsumption of information because then you find yourself in a situation where you're more frustrated than informed.
That is so true. And if you follow cable news, it's the same thing. Everything is a breaking story, and there's no breaking story. It's the same thing you saw 2 hours ago. Right. So we have to set limits in terms of our consumption. It's not the same, watch a movie, watch a documentary or something, rather than just being focused on the news. Yes, you have to be informed, and you can get it later on in the day, but it's the only thing that they're going to report is the more deaths, more positive and stuff. They're still working on a cure, which will take a whole long time in terms of medication for this. So, but set limits on your media consumption. That can drain you because what we have seen in the psychology of human beings, when crisis situations like these happen, people who have pre-existing condition in terms of depression, anxiety, and all that, it can exacerbate or make it worse.
Yeah. Those
situation because you don't have someone to talk to anymore. You don't have the therapy that you've been getting, so you're at home in that confined space. And one of the things we got to look at in Grenada, not everyone has the luxury of a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom or stuff house. Sometimes it's a 1 or 2 room house.
Yeah.
And we're asking people to stay home. Sometimes they may need to walk outside a little bit.
Yeah.
For the mental health.
Yeah.
So the law enforcement has to understand that too.
Yeah.
It's not straying and going around in the rum shop or so, but sometimes you just need to walk a little bit, have a mask on, protect yourself. Understand the emotional effects of the people to just stay locked in the home. It's difficult, folks.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent there because I've been at home for about a week now, just at home, and I haven't been going outside as much as I should. Maybe 3 days in a row I haven't even gone on the outside, and not because I don't want to, but I find myself consumed in so many other things inside that I forget that I even need to go outside. And yesterday I found myself needing to just go outside
Yes.
and just take in the fresh air, enjoy the sunset,
Yes.
and just relax. And I mean, I think people think the confinement means that you have to stay inside of your house 24/7. I think it's important for people to understand that you have the option to go outside, to sit outside, to enjoy nature. And I think that's one of the benefits that we have here in the Caribbean, is the fact that when we go outside, we're not looking at buildings and walls, we're looking at nature.
Right.
So we have one of those benefits to kind of keep us sane for now.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and I think that's so important to do, to have that luxury to get some fresh air. I go outside in my backyard so often and just walk around to get some fresh air, because just being inside, you get tired of it. What are we doing? Yes, we're going to read, and I love reading, but it gets boring sometimes too.
It does. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that people tend to, you give them a little leeway, and some people, not everybody, there are people who are very, very considerate, very understanding of the situation, and will do absolutely everything that is asked of them. But there are some people, you give them the opportunity to, let's say, you can take walks in your village, keep your social distance, and so on. If we take that stance, then we would find an even bigger situation where people just don't care about what you say anymore. You have the opportunity to walk, and then next thing you know, people congregating at a shop or going by a neighbor's house, and I think that's one of the things that we're trying to limit the most, that possibility.
Yes, and I agree with that. People should not be going into the villages and the neighbor's house and doing those things. I think they should have an opportunity to just walk outside the house, even if just in the road, and come back, just to get out from the house and stuff. And I don't think one should be arrested for that. I don't know any case of that's happening, but I think it's important. Sitting in the house and going back and forth, cooking and stuff, and not even coming out to exercise a little bit and just continuing the same procedure, it really can limit your growth and just create situations in terms of your health. Your health is important at this time, not just your physical health, but your mental health is important, and your thought processes.
Absolutely. And I mean, we do have the opportunity here to go into our yards. And to go outside and enjoy. So it's not like we are totally confined to the inside of our house. We do have the opportunity to utilize the yard space around us. For some people, that yard space extends to a backyard garden or a forest or whatever it may be, that they can spend time doing or developing. A lot of people can engage in now household farming, where they're able to produce a lot of the things that they go to the market and buy, like their seasonings and their peppers. The possibilities for keeping yourself occupied is endless. And I just feel like we spend so much time complaining about the fact that we aren't able to move, that we don't see the benefit in not being social, in not having to or being required to go to the shop with the boys, or to go to St. George's and do this, or to go to work even, that we can expand our knowledge in a lot of areas and pick up a skill or pick up a craft or get into farming or something to keep us occupied.
Those are good and positive things, and people respond to emotional stress and distress at different, based on their own upbringing, their own culture, their own education, and all that. And I'm a strong believer that if you're asking people to change something, we really need to see, and with regards to what are we asking them to do, how can they do it? Some do not have the wherewithal to do all that. But I think this is important for us right now to curb the spread of this virus. And people, we also have to understand what people are going through. So, and again, as I said at the beginning, I just hope that at the end that we our mental health and issues, we take care of that. And there are people, you mentioned that, which is so important, connect with loved ones and others, reaching out to people, talking to people.
Yeah.
That's so important, picking up a phone and finding out how this one is doing. And what I do here, anytime I get an email from my staff or my parent or student, I pick up the phone and I call them, and it helps a lot. I get a lot of information. I have a lot of positive cases in terms of my community with regards to teachers, also parents and grandparents and stuff. It's sad. This physical piece in terms of the health, and and I have said to them, this is not a time for you to be doing schoolwork. You have too many stresses in your life at this time. So again, I'm saying all this to say that we have to be flexible in understanding what our people are going through at this time. I mentioned before, the substance abuse is a big factor. We have a lot of people who have substance abusers.
Right.
And yes, alcohol and stuff is not a good thing to use or to within this when people are confined to stay at home, because it can create situations with your communication, your anger, your emotional issues. It's not good if you cannot handle it. Mm-hmm. But we have to understand that there are people who are substance abusers and they cannot get in the help that we have to bear that in mind. That's where people, stray and go to the rum shop because, again, the connection and maybe they need a drink. They don't have the luxury of some others who may have drinks at the home. So it's tough for a lot of people to handle this. So I'm seeing it from a different perspective from when people are talking about the rum shop, because I would love to do an ethnography study on the rum shop mindset, because it's not always about the rum. It's about people connecting with each other and hearing each other out in the public. It's a very key piece in our culture, and we have to understand that.
Absolutely. Now, there are people who suffer with depression, and that is a reality. A lot of people suffer with depression. One of the things that I would have liked to see or like to hear is more psychologists and more therapists reaching out to people and providing avenues for them to contact them, for them to be able to to speak to them, or providing them with coping mechanisms. Because while I might be able to say you can find a lot of creative ways to consume your time, there are a lot of people who suffer deeply with depression, and me saying find the time, they don't even have the time to find themselves. Some of them can't even get up from bed in the morning. It's that bad. What recommendations do you have for people that suffer with depression? What avenues do you think people can make available to help these people? Because some of them may not even have access to the necessary medications that can help them at this time. So what do you suggest that they do?
That's a great question, and I have been pushing for that a lot in terms of asking people to really focus a whole lot on that. I think we have to also differentiate depression from sadness. Sadness is a big part of depression, but depression is not sadness. There may be a situation that may cause you to be sad at this current moment, but it's not necessarily depression. For people at home right now who are suffering with depression and may not have someone, this is where the family members come in, and family members need to understand that person. You may see people losing interest in pleasure and activities. You may see weight loss or weight gain, having trouble sleeping, being tired, all those things. Take a look at those things, and you can tell whether or not even thoughts of suicide is a very big one. So with regards to people being depressed, I think in terms of helping someone and disputing the thought processes can help a lot. Because people can say things that I'm no good and I'm this and that and no one loves me. I think in terms of that negative thought process, we have to dispute that and provide them with positive pieces. And also with regards to the energy and doing things. Yes, it might be very difficult right now to leave your house and do things. The opposite of depression is being happy.
Yeah.
I mean, getting people to be happy and laughing, it's really a good remedy. So humor but the key piece is understanding. And in our culture, sometimes we're like, "Oh, nothing is wrong with you. You'll get over it." Folks, let's come on now.
Yeah.
It's real, and we have to show empathy for people and understand them. But I think at home right now, because people cannot get the help they need, it's really to find someone within the family, and family being understandable of that, to help them out, to talk to them and asking them, that it will be better. And understanding what's the cause of it, what is causing that. And, you may not have all the coping mechanisms in place to help that person out, but listening and not judging them is important too.
Great, great. And also, I want us to talk a little bit about, I mean, this virus brings out something more in us, something that we haven't even been thinking about. The fact that we need to spend time with ourselves and be comfortable with ourselves and be able to make ourselves happy, so that in cases like this, we don't find ourselves lacking or wanting for people and for social activities to make us happy, And I mean, that's just my opinion on the matter. For me, I love being at home. Would I be able to stay home for very, 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 very long? Maybe not. I've never been placed in the situation to know or to be able to judge that. But I like being at home. I can find a million different things to do while I'm at home. So I'm comfortable not going out there and socializing. And of course, for somebody who has been extremely busy these past few months, for me, it's a time for me to settle down, get some much needed work done, spend time with my kids, and take care of my home, and keep in touch with family. So for me, I see this as a great opportunity. For a lot of people, it's not that way, and that's why it's so important for us to keep checking in on each other,
Yes, and that's very true, and we all handle and deal with situations differently. We at times, in terms of our own, people look for others to like them, to be motivated by them, rather than having that intrinsic drive for ourselves and not necessarily looking to others. And we have to understand that and help those who feel that is outside of them and not necessarily within them. And that's a cultural piece. We've grown up a lot to view things that way at times, and we have to break that cycle that at times it's within us. We have the skills necessary to do it, and not necessarily having someone else out there to make us feel happy. That there's always the need for something, and if I have that, I'll be happy. And no, happiness is really with yourself first. I think we have to examine our psychology, examine who we are, and where this happened. And I understand that some people have had traumatic situations happen in their lives, and that has really resulted in them being depressed, and they have suppressed and repressed at times lots of negative thoughts that may have happened during their childhood, and sometimes it comes up in different forms, and we have to understand it and work with people on that.
Absolutely. And we also need to take into consideration those frontline workers, policemen and doctors and nurses who are dealing with this thing firsthand. And, I can only imagine how they feel when they hear of a new case, or when they hear of a pending case or something like that. I can only imagine how they feel, because then it means that they're one step closer to having to deal with this firsthand. And it puts them in a difficult position. I think we need to take that into consideration as well, because they are also people too. And this is stressful for them as well. As much as we hate being home, they hate being at work even more. They want to be home with their family members too. So it's a difficult situation. No matter how you look at it, it's difficult. And there's no manual that tells us how to deal with this. But the situation must be fluid enough to accept changes and to make changes.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned the frontline workers, our nurses, our doctors, law enforcement people are going through a really rough time. I mean, I know in New York City here, I've seen the number of firefighters and police officers who have called in sick. The large percentage of people because of the stress and what they're seeing and stuff. And I really hope there's help for people. A lot of my staff, their spouses are in law enforcement and also in health field, and they've shared stories with me. I put a video to my staff on Monday, and the response I got from my staff was so overwhelming because some have not seen their loved one for weeks and stuff, because since this thing started, some of the hospitals have created areas or hotels close by where the people just go sleep for a few hours and come back and all those kind of stuff. That's a big effect on people also. Yeah. And seeing all those things, it really, it's going to affect you. Yeah. And this is, and I really hope we come out from this better and we don't see an increase. And I saw some statistics with regards to an increase in domestic violence. I don't know if it's credible because I didn't see any in terms of who studied what. I just saw a number, but they're saying there's an increase in domestic violence. We expect that because we are asking people to stay home who can't get along with each other, and who may not have the coping mechanisms and communication skills. When something happens and seeing the person and you start screaming and then boom, you start fighting. So, I really hope that we come out of this and we don't have issues with regards to, sexuality issues with kids being abused, domestic violence issues and all that. Those are the unintended consequences of this thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's definitely an appeal to people to do the humanitarian thing and take other people into consideration and not just think about you and how this affects you. Call a friend, call a neighbor, just see how they're doing. Friendship goes or should go way beyond just socializing. It should go way beyond just socializing. We should be able to call a friend on the phone just to see how they're doing. And that means a lot to a lot of people, because we don't know how some people are dealing with the situation. And while I might be handling it just fine, some people definitely may not be, So just picking up the phone and calling a friend is very, very important.
Totally agree, and I think this is where we have to get away from the emails and stuff and just pick up the phone and listen to that voice on the line. We are very much in terms of the superficiality of the Facebook piece in terms of Facebook friends and thinking it's real friends. It's very superficial. So real friends really reach out and talk to people who are in need, especially, and I'm very much concerned about our elderly population, our senior citizens, and making sure people check up on them. And I think I saw something that Delma Thomas put up with regards to, here's a number if you need to call this number with regards to elderly. We have to look out for these people, for our people right now.
Absolutely. And one of the most important things that people need to understand, right now we're at 12 cases, and if we don't see any form of community spread, any form of community transmission, then we are on a safe track in the next 14 days to coming back to some semblance of normalcy within our country. But it's still going to be difficult because even though there are a lot of us that will be able to return to our jobs and a lot of people who are going to be able to return to socializing, there are going to be a lot of people out there still, especially in the tourism sectors and the trade sectors, that will still be without a job because this is still an international issue. And we need to also take into consideration, how are these people going to cope? Because while we're asking for the place to be normal again, for these people, normal is still going to be a long way off.
Yes. I don't know how we're going to be how we're going to define normal going forward, because this will affect a whole lot of people. I don't know, and I'm waiting to see how the transition will be made to say we are okay. Let's get back to work. I think testing is important, and testing. This has been what every country has been doing, because we don't know. Yes, I think social distances has worked tremendously, but I think testing is also important. And when we get back to, however we get back to where, it will be interesting. It will be very interesting to see how people operate. And for me in the educational field, I just, again, and this has been me, I'm a very humanistic person. The connection is important. I think people realize that we are all in this together. No man is on an island by himself. We are our brother's keeper, and I think it really should help us to be better people. And I hope that happens, and people understand, and the bullying and all this kind of stuff, those things end, and we can really be better people and helping each other.
Absolutely. And of course, lastly, we can't leave out our government officials, who people don't understand the amount of stress and pressure that they are under as well. Because, I mean, we have to accept the fact that it's totally new. It was totally unexpected. And decisions must be made almost overnight, you know? And we have to take into consideration that these people are under tremendous pressure and tremendous stress. And in ways that we can help, we must be able to help. Because I think a lot of people are saying, oh, well, that's the government. They're supposed to be able to handle it. But that's not really how it works. You know, we have to take into consideration that they are people too, you know. And this is a situation that calls for the consideration of everybody. Everybody needs to be considerate, you know. There's no class that deserves less consideration than others. Everybody is under tremendous pressure, regardless of what their stature is or what their responsibility or their duty is. They deserve the same amount of consideration that the man confined in his home deserves as well. You know, and if we show that kind of consideration, it will go a long way. It'll make their job easier. It'll make them feel like, you know, we're working for the benefit of the people, and it's worth it.
Yes, I'm in total agreement. In every government during this period, some have been quicker to work on situations than others. But this is called for contingent leadership with regards to always coming up with a contingency plan. Because, again, we never know what worked. For example, the last Monday with regards to the grocery piece. They saw it. I criticized it because it was unbearable to see the long lines of people waiting to buy groceries. And they learn, and that's what we ask our leaders to do. Take a look at situations, learn from it, make adjustments, and move on. But yes, they go home to their families too. They have kids, they have their spouses, and they are affected by it. And we have to bear that in mind. And yes, the government in situations like this need to stand up, and people are very quick because we as Grenadians, boy, I tell you, we received the gold medal for always backing into our political tribes and stuff, and you know, coming out, it's swinging on every little thing. And you know, as a leader, I know that also, that people are looking upon us to make the right decisions, and if we don't do it, then we get criticized. I can handle that. I've dealt with that enough numerous times, and I'm dealing with it right now. We have to stand up, and I think they're doing that. But bear in mind, they're humans also. They will make mistakes. No government is perfect. No decision a government makes is perfect. We are in this together.
Absolutely.
Give them constructive feedback and not try to score cheap political points. I'm not into that at all.
Absolutely.
I'm into Grenada, building our country, working together. If the other side has a positive idea, let's put it together and see if it's worked. That's who we are in building our country. But too many times we look to score cheap political points, and those are the weaklings out there.
Right. And I mean, the situation is already bad on its own. We don't really need to be adding so much negativity to it as well. It's already bad. You know, what we need to do, or what we need to be doing as a people, is helping each other to cope, helping each other to get through this thing, this issue, this pandemic, and that we all come out on top. because it's really not going to be a nice thing for us to come out of this thing swinging with no more cases and no community spread,
Nope.
but then we have a bunch of people that's psychologically damaged, or
Yes.
people who would have taken their lives because of depression, and that's why it's
Hmm.
so important for us to stay away from the negativity. I want to be able to go on my social media page and see jokes and see videos and
Yes.
see people singing and these kind of things, as it was before. And not every time I scroll, see some post with a negative comment towards some policy or some procedure or something about the
Yeah.
coronavirus. I would like that, and that's not hard to
Yeah.
do. It
Yeah.
just needs all of us to take that stance.
Yes. Through government things, then we can identify the problem and talk about it. But I think now is the time for more country than party. I think it's about saving lives. It's about educating our people rather than a time to say, hey, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, this and that, and all this kind of stuff. I go back in the earlier days when the issue was with the planes, the so-called planes coming from China and all kind of stuff. And even in America, I saw a report right now that none of the cases thus far initially came from China. It came from Europe. So it's very interesting in terms of people's mindset and where people are.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that. But for the people out there, I think, psychologically there are people who are helping. Dr. Pantry is doing a good job, and
Yes.
people can reach out to him in terms of getting the help and stuff they need. So I think it's good. I'm glad to see Grenada focusing on the social emotional health, because in the past this was taboo. Let the pastor pray for you. Let the priest pray for you. Folks, this is not working. We need experts. We need professionals who are skilled in doing those things.
Absolutely. Well, Doctor, it's been a wonderful conversation. Do you have any closing words for the listening audience?
Well, I want to thank you for the invitation to do this, and I'm glad your program is addressing this. It's important to do that. I know the physical health is important in terms of the disease itself, but I think people are staying home. They want to know, what can I do? How can I handle this? I'm angry. What is going on here? So those things, I think we need to continue to talk about this, and we will pull through this. This too shall pass, and we will be better people when we come out of it. I want to be back in Grenada. I want to see my friends and hang out and laugh. I've been laughing a lot here, and this has been helping me as a coping mechanism. We will get through this. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Dr. Bridgman. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and stay safe.
Thanks again. You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys, and that was Dr. Bridgman giving us some pointers, some tips, and talking about general mental health during this time. And we know it's difficult. We know it's hard. We know that this is not something that we're accustomed to. It's probably not something that we're ever going to get accustomed to or want to get accustomed to, but we have to understand the situation. It is abnormal, and it is going to require each and every one of us to be considerate towards the situation. Something or a suggestion that I'd like to make is that just as much as there is a COVID helpline or a hotline for persons who exhibit symptoms, there must be a helpline for people who are struggling mentally and psychologically with being confined. People who just really want somebody to talk to, people who just want some advice. And I think this is a very, very important tool in this time, because I have spoken to a few people, and I know there are a few people who are not handling this quarantine very well, But we must be able to do our part as a nation, as a society, as a people, in helping people to cope. Post more movies to Facebook. Give people options. Those of you artists out there, I've seen a few do it, and it really is very relaxing to listen to some of you go onto your live videos and and sing to us and play your instrument to us. You know, some of you have been posting jokes or funny videos. We need to see more of that. More of that. More avenues where people can just relax, take a breather, laugh a little bit. You know, we need to make more recommendations to people on how they can cope. So like we said earlier, craft. You may be able to make something. You may realize that you have some hidden talent that you've never honed in on. You may realize that you're able to fix something in your house that's been damaged for long and you've been trying to get someone out to fix it, but now you have the time to sit down, relax, and do it. YouTube has to-dos for everything. You want to know how to fix a chair? YouTube has it. You want to know how to paint? YouTube has that too. And for those of you who don't have that access to the social media and these things, now is an opportunity for you to start a little garden. You know, plant something that you have to care for every day. Now you have an opportunity to exercise because your life has been so busy before that you haven't had time to spend exercising. Now you have that chance. Now you have an opportunity to get to know your children. I'm learning new things about my kids every day. The more I spend sitting with them and talking to them and just looking at them interact with each other, I learn new things about them every day. This is probably an opportunity for some parents to be able to improve their educational skills by learning what your children learn as well. This is probably just a time for you to reflect, for you to meditate, for you to find peace of mind. This is probably an opportunity for you to read that book that you've been longing to read. Or even for you to develop a liking for reading. The opportunities are endless. So let's not look at the situation in one lens or through one lens. Let us find means and ways to deal with it. We might now have an opportunity to learn to cook. I know I'm trying to learn to bake bread. I can cook anything, but y'all don't want to see or taste a bread that I have made. You know, so now is an opportunity for me to learn to do that. Trial and error. You know, the opportunities are endless. There are so many universities giving free courses online, free certification for different skills. Let's take advantage of those. This is not an all bad situation. It's not all bad. So many good things can come from this. On its own, COVID-19 is already bad. Let's not add to it. You know? Let's do what we can to lighten the mood and to make people comfortable. We may not know all of the people out there who suffer with depression. And you don't have to know. But it might be something small that you do that makes them smile or makes them laugh, that can make them live a day longer or want to go on a day longer. It might be something as simple as an inspirational quote. It might be something as simple as a live video of you reading a book or you giving an update on a book that you've been reading. It might be something as simple as you using your talent to sing or your talent in poetry to give them something to look forward to every day. And these are the things that we must focus on. I know it's tough for a lot of people. I can't say it's tough for me as yet because I have so many things that consume my time. You know, between school and work and my kids, it's very time consuming. And everybody may not have that opportunity. But we can all make that difference. We can all make that change. It starts with us. It starts with us not using social media as a tool to spread negativity, but understanding that now that more people are at home and more people have access to social media, that they need more positivity from us as a people. That's what we must understand. And we must also appreciate the fact that there are people out there on the front line risking their lives to save ours. They are risking their lives to save ours. And all that they're asking us to do is to stay home. We have to think about all of these things. We have to take into consideration that while the government will not be perfect all of the time, that they are trying, that they are making moves to ensure that the situation is at least a little bit more comfortable for us. You know, and I looked at a couple posts recently when government would have announced that the shopping day would have been on Saturday. And a lot of people were up in arms talking about the Seventh-day Adventists and no preparations were being made for them and so on. And a lot of people felt like this was an attack on that denomination. But what they didn't take into consideration was the fact that on Monday was a shopping day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all of the shops around the islands, supermarkets and everything, they need to restock. They need time too. Tomorrow is a holiday. You have Saturday, you have Sunday, Monday is also a holiday. So when they made that decision, I hardly think that the first thing on their mind was religious denominations. But the government did hear your cries. They did hear your concerns. Now we have Saturday and Sunday. And then they moved on to another issue of the alphabetizing the shopping line. And then you heard the people complaining yet again. Remember, there is no manual for this situation. It's a touch and go issue. It is a trial and error issue. We have never been in this position before. And even if we may have a skeleton disaster preparedness plan, it would never have been able to prepare us for this. So we have to appreciate that there will be mistakes, that there will be shortcomings. But we also have to accept the fact that they're being dealt with, that your concerns are being heard. And I also want to appeal to the people When airing your concerns, do so respectfully. You can bring your point across without the use of degrading, obscene language. You can do that. So try. We don't have to go under every live press conference and act crazy, as I've been seeing recently. These press conferences are for educational purposes. Listen to what government is saying to you. Share your concerns. It is your right to do so. You are free to do so. But do it respectfully and with consideration. And with the thought in mind that these people were probably in a meeting from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock midnight and had to start 8 o'clock in the morning again. That they are not afforded the same luxuries that you have to stay home and relax. And that they are fighting. Not for politics, not for votes, not for party, but they are fighting to keep us as Grenadians safe. So that we come out of this thing unscathed. And as we were saying with the doctor, a lot of us are going to end up in a situation where the ban is lifted, we have freedom of movement. Yes, that would be great for a lot of people. But there's still going to be those who are going to be without a job as economies crash all over the world. And as the tourism sector crashes all over the world. And as trade and industry crashes all over the world. There are going to be a lot of people who are still going to be without a job. Who are still going to be feeling much harder than a lot of us the long-term effects of this COVID-19 pandemic. Where will their relief come from? We are all concerned with being able to go and shop, or being able to go and get gas, being able to talk with our friends, being able to go to a party, being able to socialize. A lot of us are concerned with that. When there are other people who are concerned with, when again am I going to have a job? You know? So we have to take all of these things into consideration. Let us not act selfishly in our suggestions. Let us not think selfishly when we stand to comment on things. Let us be mindful that in every sector, all of our essential workers are people too. So we have to take that into consideration. When you're going to the supermarket, go with a list. If you go with a list, the chances of you spending a longer time in the supermarket will be greatly minimized. You know, it will be greatly minimized. Go with a list. Take into consideration that there will be people behind you standing in that line for hours. So you don't have the time to go in and peruse the supermarkets. Be mindful of that. And as I said, when you're considering the banks open, I agree that maybe the banks should open 1 day or 2 days so that the elderly people can have an opportunity, and the people without debit cards and so on can have an opportunity to get monies and so on that they need. I agree with that. But the decision to do that doesn't stand with government. It stands with the owners of the bank, taking into consideration their workers, who are people too, and are afraid just as you are, and are concerned just as you are. So sometimes we're asking for things and thinking that it's just mechanical, but it's so much more than that. And sometimes just a little patience can go a very long way. Just a little patience. So guys, it is Easter weekend starting from tomorrow. I know a lot of people are, kind of sad at the fact that they're not going to be able to go and fly kites and all of that. But there will come a time when we will be able to enjoy these luxuries once again. All right. And I do, of course, need to report that today, 9th of April, Government Information Service reports that the Ministry of Health will host a live press conference at 4 p.m. All right. So at 4 p.m. today, there will be a live conference hosted by the Ministry of Health. And I'm asking the people, please, listen and ask your questions respectfully. Please. It's important. Everybody wants to hear. Everybody wants to give a comment. So when you gear up to go on these live videos to just talk nonsense and just be malicious, it takes away from the people who are genuinely concerned and have genuine suggestions that would help. And then if they decide to disable the comments under the live videos, everybody would say that they're trying to silence people. And that's not the case. So before it gets to that place, let us all do the responsible thing and be respectful of each other's opinion, one, but also respectfully air our concerns. Guys, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. I always want to be talking with you and never about you. Remember, for our shopping days, let me just quickly pull up the information here as it relates to the shopping days, what days you are expected to shop, and of course, what letters. Now, remember, there are a lot of people who would have given in their ID cards and have not had an opportunity to get those back. Of course, we are hoping that there is consideration given to people who don't have ID cards, right? But you do have some form of identification. You may have, whether it may be a birth paper, whether it may be your NIS card, whether it may be your ID card, your passport. Some form of identification is absolutely necessary. All right? So you definitely want to take that into consideration. I'm just trying to locate that information. Just give me 2 seconds here. And of course, there is a release from Real Value. I know a lot of people shop there. Let me quickly read that to you. All individuals must wear face coverings. I know a lot of people are saying, well, we don't have masks. There are a lot of innovative ways and measures to make a mask. There have been a lot of videos circulating on what you can use to make a mask. You can tie a scarf, a t-shirt, as long as your face is covered, right? Of course, one person per household will be permitted to shop. One line will be formed and controlled by the RGPF and store security. The line starts at the east entrance of the Spiceland Mall. That's the entrance closest to the Cooperative Bank teller machine. Essential workers, hospital, public health workers, and elderly need to queue in the line according to the time slot allocated by the first letter of surname. Please identify yourself to the RGPF or security once you have joined the line. Essential workers must present ID. Special needs, pregnant, and immune compromised, please have someone shop for you. If that's a possibility, then you can do it. Now remember, these things are this is only a suggestion. They don't mean if you don't have anybody to do it, don't come. But if you can find somebody to do it for you, it is your safety that is being taken into consideration here. All right? Of course, customers will be restricted to 20 minutes to conduct their shopping, which is why it is important to make sure that you have a list before you leave your house. Social distancing of 6 feet must be maintained at all times. And of course, please bring your prepared shopping list of essential items with you. Selected items will have a designated purchase limit per customer. The shopping days are Saturday, April 11th. If your last name begins with the letter A to the letter M, you will shop from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So if you're Alexander, if you are Bernard, if you are, what's her surname in C? And mine in working today. For me, which is Duncan, I will shop from 8 to 12. If your last name begins with the letter N to Z, then you shop from 1 to 5. So whether it's Neptune or whatever it may be, from the letters N to Z, if your first letter in your last name, and I cannot reiterate this enough because I have seen so many comments and I'm laughing, and I'll give you a joke of one. There was a lady that commented and said, well, my last name has 5 different letters. How do I know? How do I know which line to go in? People, it is if your last name begins with the letter N to Z or A to M. All right? So take that into consideration, and that's for Saturday. So if your last name begins with the letter A through M, then you shop at 8 to 12. If your last name begins with the letters N to Z, then you shop from 1 to 5. And on Sunday, April the 12th, it is flipped around. If your last name begins with the letter N to Z, then you shop from 8 to 12. And if your last name begins with the letters A to M, then you shop from 1 to 5. These measures are being put in place so that everyone can have an opportunity. Now, if you shopped on Monday, please, and this goes for the people who are shopping on Saturday and Sunday, at least, if possible, make sure that you don't have to go back on Sunday, or that you don't have to go back the following week. Try your best to buy essential goods to last at least 2 weeks, if possible, because I know that may not be a possibility for a lot of people, or for some people. And for some people it is. Because there are shopping days does not mean that you have to shop on every day that there is a shopping day. Make the necessary arrangements so that you don't have to go every day, so that you don't have to shop every 2 days, so that you don't have to shop every week even, if possible. I want to appeal to everyone to stay safe. We are all in this together. Based on what happens this afternoon in the Ministry of Health's press conference, we'll know what further steps need to be taken. But we're hoping, because at this point all we can do is hope that we remain at 12 and that we all comply for the benefit and safety of every single one of us. It's always a pleasure being here with you guys. In whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. I always want to be talking with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
To date with all that's happening with the new national party, NMP. Send us a message via text